Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wandering Podcast, where we take advisement from outside the box. I'm Rihanna Ritter, your host. I'm an intuitive, sexuality, and authentic expression coach. Are you an accomplished professional who plays the part of having it all figured out? Who's strong for everyone else, but feels lonely, misunderstood, like you can't tell anybody the truth about how stressed you are, how not passionate you are about your life and all that you've created? I guide my clients to deep, lasting fulfillment. I re-engage them with their bodies, their pleasure, their desire. I help them align to enjoy fulfillment and prosperity in all areas of their lives. Today, my guest is Nada Nasserdeen, CEO of Rise Up For You, best-selling author on emotional intelligence. Welcome, Nada. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, I'm curious what inspired you to write a book on emotional intelligence and start Rise Up For You.
Okay, so I'll give you the short story. And the short story is that I started as my career as a performer turned corporate executive and professor. And Rihanna, in every single industry that I've ever been in, it didn't matter. The number one challenge and the biggest problem that I saw always came down to people. So whether I was performing, whether I was in nonprofit, whether I was working corporate, teaching at the Educational Institute, there was always challenges around social and emotional intelligence, communication, how to lead. And that was really the biggest challenges that existed both in the corporate space and in educational institutes. And so that's when I started to recognize that it's more than just your technical skills. It's more than what's in your resume. Especially as an executive, when I was hiring people, I would notice, wow, their resume is really amazing, but they're not showing up well, or their communication with me is odd, or it wasn't matching. And so that's when I really started to recognize that I think there's more to being seen, being heard, and being relevant, and really building success in life. And I started to ask myself, like, what makes some people more successful than others? What makes some organizations go further faster than others? If they have the same product and the same skill and they do the same thing, how come only some people are more successful, or only some organizations are really growing? And it really came down to understanding that soft skills makes up about 80% of your success, but we're typically not taught soft skills. You know, if you think about the school system, we don't get taught self-confidence. We don't get taught emotional intelligence. We don't get taught how to communicate and lead. Yeah, we barely get taught that in university, right? It really depends on what your major is, to tell you the truth. And so I realized that the skills that make up 80% of our success, we really don't invest any time, money, or energy into it. And that is where the gap is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Being in management, I recognized that one of my better traits was trying to connect with my employees and find out why they were doing what they were doing, and if they understood why they were doing what they were doing, and not having them be fearful, but feeling like safe at work. And the manager they had before me, it was quite the opposite. She was very much about hard skills, but didn't want really them to understand why they were doing things, just wanted to keep them really busy and fearful. And so it was interesting how the department performed under her versus under me, and how we were able to shift things. You don't want your employees terrified at work. It's not a good motivator.
We don't want them terrified, but also most individuals, 83% of professionals, they struggle with self-confidence out the gate. So there's already a disadvantage in that aspect, and that most individuals struggle to have conscious conversation, right, or to be assertive. So now if you add a leader on top of that, that's not supportive, that's not warm, that is power hungry, now take that 83% and escalate that, right? Even more team members are going to have a hard time expressing themselves and speaking up. So it kind of escalates that challenge of team members that struggle with communicating with confidence, or that struggle with raising their hand in a meeting, or if they feel like something's wrong, they're not going to say anything, and then they end up being miserable at work because they feel like they're doing things that aren't in alignment with them, that don't feel good. So it accelerates that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we have employees that can't speak up when they see things that aren't working or something's wrong, it hurts the whole company. It doesn't just hurt their experience, it
Yep.
hurts the department and trickles down to other departments, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah. So I do notice, I mean, I noticed in school too, like people were really afraid to raise their hand, or the professor would ask a question and everybody would sit silently. And so like I was always one of the people that was like, all right, here's the answer. And then I would feel like, okay, I'm way being over the top with this. Like I could need to give other people a chance. And they just wouldn't speak up. Why do you think so many people are afraid to maybe be wrong, or what
Yeah.
is it?
It's a great question. So I don't know, exactly when we'll be speaking to the audience, but my new book is coming out, which is called Self-Confidence: How to Overcome the I'm Not Enough Mindset. And so one of the biggest challenges that we see is exactly what I just mentioned earlier. It's a lack of self-confidence. So many individuals, they struggle with feeling enough. And so for them to raise their hand when they're uncertain actually creates a lot of stress. And it creates a lot of fear around, am I going to look stupid? Are people going to make fun of me? What if I get the answer wrong? What if I fail? All of those things are constantly in our mind as individuals. And I also saw it at the college level when I was a professor. My students would rather take an F than ask a question because they didn't want to look dumb, right? They didn't want to feel stupid in front of their friends. They were afraid of making a mistake because so many of us are taught that our identity is based off of our accomplishments, how we look externally. Those are the things that drive us, that we've been taught. And we haven't built the inner self-confidence that says, well, I'm going to ask a question, and if I get the answer wrong, who cares? Like, many individuals haven't built that tenacity internally. And so for them to ask a question, they actually go into a lot of fear. They go into a lot of stress around, how am I going to be perceived? And perfectionist mindset comes into play, imposter syndrome comes into play, self-doubt, not feeling enough, all the chatter in our mind that says we're not good enough. All of those things are constantly haunting us on a daily basis. And as mentioned, only 17% of professionals and individuals actually feel strong enough to push through that doubt, meaning they're going to raise their hand anyway. And if they get the answer wrong, it's not that deep.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's really interesting to me because I grew up Jehovah's Witness, like very controlling religion. Everything was, but I would say that we were allowed to fail. Like we were given the space by our parents to explore something and be wrong about it and mess it up. Like they wouldn't give us all the instructions. They would tell us, do this, do something. And, if we asked, well, how do I do it? They would be like, well, I don't know, give it a try. So is, do you think that it's part of the upbringing? Like with school, we can't, you know, miss a question. Our parents are helicoptering, they're controlling every aspect of our daily life.
Well, I mean, think of the school system. It's all based off of a grading system, right? And so in some ways, we do teach that you can't make a mistake, because if I make a mistake or two mistakes or three mistakes, now I have a C instead of an A, right? And so it puts a lot of pressure and a lot of stress on young kids, but it really does start in the home. So Rihanna, you're right in that aspect, that if you come from a childhood or a home that embraces failing and really the growth mindset, right? So if you fail, it's okay, let's try again, let's make mistakes, let's learn from our mistakes. Then when a child goes to school, they're more likely to exercise that there as well. But if you go to school and you're constantly faced with like these grades and a GPA and all these accolades around, getting A, B's, and C's or whatever, and then you go home and you see the same thing, and then you're on social media and you see perfection oftentimes, all of that compiles and it creates a narrative in our mind that we have to be perfect and we cannot make mistakes. And if we do make mistakes, we feel like our identity is less than, that's our worth if we make a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how, like, I have severe perfectionism, inner critic, imposter syndrome. Like, I have all of that going on, but was able to decide that I wanted to be successful more than I wanted to look successful, I guess. Is that the
Yeah.
difference between people asking the question or not?
I think that you're nailing it in that this is where emotional intelligence comes back into play. The difference between those who are successful and those that are not is that successful ones know how to manage their beliefs better. So I teach this for a living every day. I wrote a book on it. I wrote 4 books, and I still have self-doubt. There's still moments where I get in my head, but the difference is that I've learned how to control it so that I can manage it and still take action anyway. And unfortunately, the majority of the people, they let it cripple them. And so it stops them from living their best life. It stops them from building a life that they're proud of. It stops them from raising a hand in a meeting or asking a question in class. And that's the difference, is that somebody like myself or you or other people out there, they still have the doubt. I mean, 80% of our thoughts are negative, period, on a human level. That me, you, everybody, right? And so all of it, that's the human condition, that most of our thoughts are negative, okay? But the difference is that we've learned how to manage them so that we can still move forward versus letting it sabotage us. And that's what we need to teach individuals, is that if you move forward and you fall short, that's fine. What's the lesson that you've learned? And so many people struggle with that concept that they'd rather just stay crippled and stay stuck.
Yeah. So kind of talk about the rise up power method that you
Yeah.
use to work with clients.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. So essentially, over time, over my experiences through our research, working with clients, we have clients all over the world. We have found that there's 4 major soft skills. We call them soft skills, but they're actually really hard. I call them power skills. There's 4 major skills that actually drive success so that you can be in the top like 10% as a person, not just as a professional. And the top 4 skills that we need that unfortunately most individuals haven't honed or learned are: number 1, self-confidence; number 2, emotional intelligence; number 3, transformational leadership versus transactional leadership; and number 4 is influential communication. So every single day we're communicating verbally and non-verbally, but how do we communicate in a way where people want to take action, or where they're inspired by us, or when we influence them in a positive way, right? That's really the goal. And that's across the board. I mean, even as a parent, every day you're exercising influential communication, right? When you're a leader with your team, you're exercising it. When you're a business owner, you're trying to influence people, to choose you to be the client. And so those are the 4 pillars that are really, really important. Influential communication is the most difficult. Self-confidence is the one that we have to start with. So each one of those pillars is its own robust content and curriculum that we've built. You see the emotional intelligence one behind me. The self-confidence is coming out in just a few days. And then the leadership and the influential communication, same thing. They all have their own unique content and curriculum. And I always say, in order for you to be seen, be heard, and be relevant, you have to master these 4 skills. And this is what we do with entrepreneurs and with organizations all over the world, is teach these skills.
Yeah, I love that you're saying we haven't honed or learned these skills yet. Like, a lot of people think you're born with it, and if you're not born with it, then you can't master it. And that's just not true.
That's 100% not true, right? You can learn the skill, and not only will it change your life professionally, but it'll also change your life personally, because these skills, they cross over. The person is the professional and the professional is the person. So when you're learning self-confidence, you're not only learning self-confidence to raise your hand in a meeting, you're also learning self-confidence to make sure that you're in a relationship romantically with the right partner that's not going to mistreat you.
Yeah.
When you're learning emotional and social intelligence, it's not only so that you can manage your behaviors as a leader, it's also so that you can manage your stress and live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. You see, so everything is connected. And so that's why we say that when you learn these skills and you can really master these skills, that you become the top 10% of the population that has built great success in every aspect. See, I'm a firm believer that you can have it all. And when you build these skills, you make more money, you have happier life, you have healthier boundaries, you start to take care of your mind, body, and soul. So I always say you live a life that's happy, healthy, wealthy, sexy, and you're making an impact.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for people to actually feel worthy of investing in themselves and learn these skills, like, what are some of the hurdles that you see people kind of run into that gets them to take the plunge and start putting themselves first and really believing that they can do it?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, most individuals are driven by one of three things: money, health, or love, right? So when you look at like products that are out there that have to do with the self, people will spend a ton of money to learn how to make money. They'll spend a ton of money to get fit, right? Healthy diets, whatever you name it. And they'll spend a ton of money to find romance, to find love, and to get married, all those things. And so it's our job really to help them understand that the soft skills helps escalate that. Like if you want to make more money, you got to build the soft skills, right? Otherwise, what makes you any different than the next person that has the same degree? Why should you get paid more? Why should you get the promotion? Why should I buy into your business when the leadership coach that's right next door does the same thing? You see what I mean? What's the differentiator? Every single industry is inundated today, meaning it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's thousands, millions of people that do what you do. And so if you want to make more money, if you want to be healthy, if you want to have thriving relationships, these are the skills that are going to help you get to that next level and do that. And so a lot of times people will come to us either because they've been kind of moving on that hamster wheel nonstop and they don't feel like they're getting anywhere, but they're super smart and they're great at what they do. And maybe they have 2 and 3 degrees and they have a ton of certifications technically, and they're geniuses and experts in their craft, and they're still not moving up the ladder, or they're still not getting clients. And they finally get to a point where they're like, what is happening? And how come I'm not growing? How come I'm not making the money that they're making? How come this person just came in and took the job straight underneath me and I've been here for 10 years? So they typically come to that point where they realize that something's off. They just don't know what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And how do people figure out what it is? Like, what is some of the messaging that you use to kind of reach people and where they're at and help them see enough that they are willing to find a solution?
Yeah, it's typically, what we're talking about here is if like, are you constantly growing yourself, getting degrees, getting certifications, and you still aren't able to see the results? Are you constantly having, meetings with your leaders and you're still not getting the career promotion? So it's always around like being seen, being heard, and being relevant, not getting the exposure that you want, not getting the clients that you want. And typically you have people that are like, yes, like I'm still not getting what I want. And then that's where we come in and say, well, these are the 4 skills that you're missing that are going to help you get there. And listen, I'm all about data. So I understand that there's a lot of people that kind of promise success and all of these things, but we have a 95% repeat client rate, 95%. And we work with everything from Fortune 5 companies down to local entrepreneurs, and we're in over 50 countries with our programming. And we've done this in 5 years. So there is a method and there is a strategy and there is a way that you can build these skills to where people can get results. We have clients that have gotten 3 promotions in the last 3 years, and before they worked with us, they weren't even like, nobody knew their name, right?
Mm.
We have clients that they've been running a business, like a coaching practice, and they've been making like $10,000 a year. And then after working with us, they're making $10,000 a month. And they're like, how the heck is that happening? And it's like, well, it's just these small things that you don't realize are happening when you're talking to somebody that are blocking your success. And so the proven method, it's all about the method, it's all about the 4 skills, and it's all about the strategies around it. It's not enough to watch a YouTube video. You really have to exercise, just like going to the gym, you have to pick up the weight consistently and you have to exercise it. It's the same when it comes to these skills. And that's what we provide our clientele. We've built the entire Rise Power Up method. It's registered, it's trademarked, so much so that now we have other HR leaders and other coaches that are getting certified with our method so that they can use it.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you allowed to say some of the companies that you've worked with? I know you've spoken with Tony Robbins and
Yeah. I've been honored and, blessed enough to be invited to speak on stages, both in person and virtually, with some of the great people: Tony Robbins, Sharon Lechter, Les Brown, Adam Grant, Marie Folio, if anybody kind of knows who they are, amongst others. And so I've been blessed to get that opportunity. We've worked with everything from Google, Kellogg Cereal, LinkedIn Learning, security and defense companies, Daiichi, Gilead Pharmaceuticals, LexisNexis, Hewlett and Packard, tons of companies overseas in Dubai, in the Middle East, in Europe, in Canada. So, I mean, we're pretty much, we're in every single industry you can be in.
Yeah. Do you ever have clients that where they come to a point where they're making progress, but they're
Uh-huh.
just they hit something and they can't figure out what it is, and they're unwilling to take the next step in being seen, heard. Like a lot of people don't realize they have a problem, that they're not feeling safe in being seen and heard.
So the first thing that we do with clients is an assessment, because 95% of people think they're self-aware, only 10% actually are. Right? So before we
Yeah.
can even like start coaching, let's talk about the individual, right? Because we have individual programming and then we have corporate programming for organizations. If we're working on an individual level, you can't change what you don't know needs changing. That's true for anybody. That's true for myself. It's like, well, I didn't know that I was being stubborn until my brother and my mom and my cousins and all these people told me I'm stubborn. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I am, right? So when we first start working with the client individually, we assess them first on all, we assess them in self-confidence, emotional intelligence. We assess them on all these different competencies, okay? Not personality, competencies. Because oftentimes when people are assessed on their personality, they put themselves in a box. Oh, well, I'm introverted, and my assessment told me that I'm extroverted, and my assessment told me that I'm this kind of brain. And that's like a very dangerous place for us. So we do assessments based on competencies, on specific things that you can grow in. So for example, empathy, active listening, self-confidence, building relationships with people. Are you a good mentor? Do you help support other individuals? Like those are the things that we assess them on. And then we take the same assessment and we give it to 7 to 10 people so that we can see if their assessment of themselves is actually true. So now let's say, Rihanna, you took the assessment on yourself. I would take your scores. I would take the scores of the 7 to 10 people that assessed you, and we would line it up and see how close is your assessment. A lot of times, specifically with executives, executives will give themselves a lot of 10s and 9s, and their team will give them a lot of 5s and 6s. And that's where we see like there's a disconnect. As an executive, you think you're empathetic, your team says that you're not. So this is an area that we need to work through, because
Yeah.
7 out of 7 people gave you a 5 in empathy. You gave yourself a 10. There's a disconnect,
Mm.
right? So that's
Yeah.
where we start.
And how deep does this work go with clients? Because a lot of times people maybe haven't ever been to therapy. Like if you've been to therapy, you have a little more self-awareness, right? But a lot of people haven't been, and it can get really crunchy and uncomfortable when you're looking at,
Yeah.
why a behavior is showing up or not showing up.
Yeah, well, it depends on the client, to tell you the truth, right? There's no cookie cutter answer. And that's why coaching is so important, because it's customizable. Our job as coaches and as trainers is to use the emotional intelligence that we teach to be able to identify how far can I push this individual, and also to be wise enough to recognize that I'm not a trained therapist. And so we're really clear that if we find out that maybe a person is behaving a certain way because of some really deep-rooted trauma that requires a therapist, we're really clear to say, we're not going to go into that space, because if you go too deep, we don't know how to pull you out, because we're not experts in that, right? But we're typically pretty good at being able to identify that there's something there and the behaviors stem from that. And usually that's pretty good for people. They can understand that concept. But it's really important for coaches and trainers to realize that you also have to exercise emotional intelligence when you're coaching, to understand how far can I push somebody? Can I give them tough love? Do I need to be a little bit more nurturing? We have to be reading, we call them the coachee, simultaneously in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can be, you need practice to be able to kind of figure out how to do that, right?
Not only do you need practice, but you need to know the skill. So this is the thing about coaching and training and all the great work that we do. There's multiple skills to it. You need to be an expert in the content. So I need to know my stuff on emotional intelligence. I need to know influential communication. I need to know, what it is to be a transformational leadership. I need to know self-confidence. That's all content-driven concepts, right? And strategies. But on top of that, I also need to be an expert and a credible leader in coaching, in training, in delivering the method. So it's not enough just to be a great leader. You also have to learn the art of coach. You have to learn the art of training. You have to learn the art of speaking. And that in itself is a skill. Now, if you're running a business, for example, for some people that run leadership businesses and self-confidence, then you also have to learn the art of building a business. And so there's different levels that you have to build as an expert. But for the sake of Rise Up For You, yes, all of our coaches are experts in the content, as well as how to be a really intuitive and great coach, trainer, and speaker.
And about how many coaches do you have?
Right now we have a team of 20. 6 of them are admin. So we have about 14 coaches and trainers.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us how to find you guys and how to
Thank
work
you.
with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So as I mentioned, we have B2C and B2B. So if you're an individual, we have our learning academy. It's called our Rise Up For You Success Academy. It's an amazing academy and platform. You can go to riseupforyou.com and learn more about it there. We also have one-to-one coaching. And then if you're an organization, so a leader or an executive that wants some support with your team, you can also go to riseupforyou.com and click on the informative call there, and I'll hop on a call with you, or my team will hop on a call. But we have a ton of free resources. So if you go to riseupforyou.com and you click the button at the top that says free, there's a free emotional intelligence masterclass, free self-confidence. We have quizzes for everything on there that you can take completely free. You can follow us at Rise Up For You on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And then I also love it when people connect with me. So you can connect with me at Lena Nasserdeen. I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes because it's pretty long. But I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram predominantly, and I do my own social media. So if you're listening to this episode and you shoot me a message, I'm going to be the one to respond.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we will have all of that information in the show notes. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with or that we didn't cover?
It's a really big passion for me. You know, a lot of times people ask me, why do you do what you do? And I love seeing people win, and I love seeing people succeed. I truly believe that the greatest tragedy is wasted human potential. But so many individuals just don't realize that it's these skills, these 4 soft skills, that can be a complete game changer in their life. And so I always say, like, the greatest tragedy is wasted human potential. Do not let that be your story. Do not let that be your story. There's a way to create movement in your life. Like, you were put in this world to make an impact, not to stay stagnant. We were put in this world to elevate the human condition, and we have to start with ourselves first.
That's beautiful. And I am curious, like, you started as a performer. What kind of performing did you do?
I did musical theater.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah, it does take confidence to do that.
When you build it, you have to build it too, right? It's like
Oh, yeah.
it's like entrepreneurship. You walk in a room with 600 amazing singers, and there's only 40 seats on the bus to go on tour, and you quickly realize, oh, I have to do something different beyond being a great singer, because everybody here sings great. So how the skills that we teach are the same skills I use on myself. It's, how am I going to get a seat on the bus? What am I going to do that's differently? She's a great singer. They're all great singers. So it's going to have to be more than just my technical voice, right? I'm going to have to do something, show up differently, build relationships, go talk to the directors, like all of those things. I started to realize really fast, oh, like if I want a seat on the bus, I'm going to have to, do the soft skills that we teach today.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned like there's a difference between transactional and transformational. And so if you want to expand on what specifically the differences are between showing up in a transactional way versus.
Yeah, specifically when it comes to like leadership, transactional leaders are and we all have them. They're the leader that basically, if you think about Maslow's hierarchy, okay, they're at the bottom of the pyramid. Hey, are you good? Do you need anything from me? Do you feel safe? Do you have the support that you need? Do you have the resources? It's like the basic needs of being a leader. That's transactional. A transformational leader is the person that says, I'm going to take you all the way up Maslow's hierarchy to self-actualization. Not only am I going to give you the basic needs and support of what you need, but I'm also going to push your potential so that you can reach your highest self. I'm going to help you see things in you that you don't see in yourself. I'm going to help you be that next level leader so that one day you can take my job. It's like we push them beyond so that we can truly create transformation, not only in them, but where they can then take it and create transformation in somebody else. And unfortunately, most leaders, they're at the transactional level.
Yeah, absolutely. They're afraid to develop people because then they feel that their job is threatened, right?
Self-confidence, right? It's right. It's fear, failure, and that's why self-confidence is the first pillar, and
Yeah.
influential communication is the last one. We do it very strategically in order.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, well, thank you for being here today.
absolutely.
Yeah, it was wonderful to meet you, and we
Yeah.
will talk soon.
Thanks, Rihanna. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.